Hi, and welcome to the newest episode of this podcast, The Annihilation of Both Science, or you can also call it the PF Podcast. Now, this episode is actually quite special in the sense that it is not only the least prepped episode that we've done so far, but also the most spontaneous one, which you guys will know later on once we get to know our guests for a bit. So, why don't you introduce yourself a bit?
Hello, I'm Connor, known better on the Picturefit server as Shaw, and I've been on there for about a couple of years now. And the main deal with me is I'm a senior medical student here in Scotland, and I tend to just give out a bit of information and advice when it comes my way.
Yeah, though.
There's not.
Oh, no, continue. Sorry.
No, go on.
Oh no, because since okay, I guess we should start explaining this right now. So, as you guys heard, he is a senior medical student, and for anyone who knows this field, they are very, very busy. Hence, why this episode is so spontaneous and unprepared that we don't even have any form of script or topics to talk about. But we decided to make that as a special trait for this episode, right, CEO or Connor, I guess.
Uh, just Connor's fine. I mean, the weird thing is, it's said differently to how it's spelled. It's spelled SEO as if I'm some IT manager, but it's said Shaw. I know it's weird.
Oh, is it pronounced show this entire time?
It's pronounced Shaw this entire time, aye.
Oh, okay. I've been calling you guys like helpful doc CEO this entire time. I never knew. Okay.
Aye, don't worry, you're not the first and you won't be the last.
Oh, definitely not. But hopefully we'll get more clearance once this episode goes up. So, Connor,
Mhm.
why don't you tell us more about yourself? Like, maybe how you got into medicine, how you got into fitness, anything, or like starting from high school. Let's
Oh,
start from there.
oh, ooh, high school, that's a interesting time. Well, let's see. Oh no, you hear a lot of these people who go into medical school. Like ever since I was a fetus, I wanted to be a doctor. I came out the womb holding a stethoscope. No, that definitely wasn't me. Uh, I don't know. It just kind of seemed like the path to take. I looked at other careers that are about, but nothing just really interested me. So I thought, hey, I like science. I do okay in it. I want something that's a bit challenging. Oh, medicine. Oh, there I go. So, if you're not familiar with the education system in Scotland, you have to decide everything you're going to study at age about 14, 15, and I mean everything. If you don't want to study maths, you're not studying maths. If you want to study nothing but arts and cooking, you do nothing but arts and cooking. So, it was at that point you had to really finalise not so much your career, but the kind of general direction you want to go in life. And I picked almost nothing but sciences, which looking back was a bit weird. Like the only other thing I had was maths, English, and music. But it was just a case of, well, there's nothing out there that's really too interesting. So I thought, medicine, why not? Become a doctor. Seems nice enough. And here I am,
Wow.
a few years later.
Wow. Honestly, man, I don't know if that's like something to be amazed about or something to be jealous about because in a way people can see it as like a humble brag, like, oh yeah, I didn't want to be a doctor. I just chose to be a doctor because why not? Like, oh boy.
Well, I don't know. People have these different things. Like some people decide from the instant they think of a career, it's I want to be a doctor. My dad was a doctor. My mum was a doctor. Everyone in my family going back up to boy Adam and Eve was a doctor, so I'm going to be a doctor too. While other people will have done an entire undergrad. Some have even done post. There's people in my year of medical school who have done entire PhDs and postdocs, and only realised they want to become a medical doctor after that. So when I figured it out, kind of like 14, 15-ish, I'd say pretty middle of the pack there. Because maybe people might think they want to be a doctor, but then realise it's not all it's cracked up to be. And people who before would think, ugh, doctor, nah, that's not for me, stick to academia. Will realise after, nah, they want something a bit more tangible, a bit more hands-on, where they can see results in person instead of on sheets of paper. Although some doctors still see it like that, but that's another thing entirely. But I wouldn't think of it as a humble brag. It's just the way of it. I had to put in body hard work to get in, but that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to just put myself into a job that would be easy to do, because then I would just become mentally exhausted through pure boredom. Mm-hmm. And I think very few people would be happy enough taking a job, even with a decent salary, if it meant that they were mentally chewing gum for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, actually, I can totally relate to that, and I can definitely sympathize with that. Because, I mean, pay is pay, and obviously we need money, but
Oh,
if you make a good enough money, but you're that ass bored with your job, sorry for the language, you'll pretty
oh
much
no.
put yourself into hell just for the good pay. But on the bright side, because the job is so boring, it doesn't actually take a lot of effort, quote unquote, effort. And you can always use that good pay to fuel a hobby that you're really passionate about, eh?
I mean, it could be the case if you have like a job in programming or IT or something that's a bit more on call, where you don't have to physically sit in an office for those 8 hours a day to get your job done, and you can get it done easily at home in about 3 hours or get it done when you want, where you want. That would be perfect. You get paid, and even though the job is a bit shite, you could still have the time at home to do what it is that you really want to enjoy. But if I had to, and there are specialties in medicine where if I was told, okay, you're going to do this, I would be tempted to go, no, I will just stick to this lower pay grade until something good comes along. If I was stuck in a specialty or a job where it was, you have to stay here 8-10 hours a day doing something that just mind-numbingly tedious, I'm not sure how long I'd be able to put up with that.
Yeah, actually, I think that would definitely kill you in more ways than one. But speaking of
Why?
doctors, you're not a general practitioner now, are you?
No, I'm not anything practitioner, no, but I don't intend to become one either. But GPs in this country are not treated the best, and they have good work-life balance, but ultimately it's not a job for everyone. Some people like it. I've done my placements. I've done months working alongside GPs, and they're very hardworking, very talented, very intelligent people. But it's just no for me. I would much rather be a specialist in my area and stick to that.
So speaking of like being special in your area, what exactly is your area? Just to give a simple explanation for the masses.
Well, I'm still a student, so I don't really have an area as per such. I don't start training in a specialty till I hit my third year as a doctor. But right now I'm exploring a few specialties, mainly in towards academia and ophthalmology, which is eye medicine for those that don't know, and otorhinolaryngology, or ear, nose, and throat medicine.
So why did you choose like that those fields to specialize in over all the others, like brain surgeon or anything?
Brain surgery isn't home for dinner most nights. It's mostly that. It's something that's both interesting and it lets me have a life. And while I find more surgery absolutely fascinating, I'm on my surgical block as part of my year right now, as it matters, as it is. And as nice as it is, the last surgery I was in, I was on my feet for 8 to 9 hours, just
Oof.
standing there, be it, and that wasn't a particularly arduous surgery. I mean, it was difficult and interesting, definitely, but it wasn't the absolute worst it could have been. And the thought of, do I really want a schedule that means I'll be doing something I enjoy, but I won't have any say over, or very little say over. I want to have my evenings at home. I want to be able to be home for my dinner. I want to be able to have evenings to enjoy most of the time. Obviously, most of the time, there's always going to be nights or weekends where you have to work. That's just a matter of fact as a doctor. If you're a doctor, you have to work weekends and nights, and that's okay. It's just how many of them do you want to work? And
Yeah.
so doing mostly ophthalmology and otorhinolaryngology, ENT miss, I'll just call it ENT, means that you still get the fascination of becoming a specialist in these small, minute, but highly intricate organs
Mm.
and dealing with patients both in clinic and in theatre and in community, while not having to have the baggage of always having to be there, losing most of your nights to the hospital, losing most of your weekends to the hospital. And considering at some point I probably do want to settle down, I probably do want to have a family, I'd rather not spend half the time not being able to see them.
That's actually very well thought out, honestly. Just like thinking from this far about your work-life balance. That's awesome,
Mm-hmm.
great. So, well, I mean, thus far, how has that work-life balance been? Or in this case, work-study balance, study-life balance.
Oh, I think you know just by trying to set up this call. It's hard. It is difficult, but I'm in the final switch as it is. In my medical school, we don't sit our final exams in our 5th year. We sit them in our 4th year, which is what I'm in now. So in about 5-6 weeks, I will be sitting my final exams, and the studying for that, on top of doing 9-hour shifts at the hospital most days, is definitely taking a lot of time out. So by the time I get all that done, the only thing I really want to do between like 6:30, 7 in the evening when I go to bed is just sit with my partner, with my girlfriend, have something to eat and watch whatever shite's on TV just to get it out.
Yeah, I mean, after such a grinder, I mean, you deserve it, man. Like, man, it's hard to even describe to the audience just how busy you are.
Aye, the sad thing is, I'm not the busiest among medical students. There's probably dozens who are doing better than me, which is both disheartening, sad, but also quite relieving. It's always good to know that there's people doing less and more than you, and
Yeah.
they're doing okay. So being in the middle of the pack, I am fine with being middle of the pack. There's a saying in my medical school that we have a grading system where everything is A, B, C, D, and D3 is the minimum bare grade you need to pass a course. So the two things we have is D3s get degrees and D is for doctor.
Oh, okay, okay. That's actually really nice because okay, I don't remember where I heard the saying before, but I heard it somewhere before where the saying was pretty similar, but instead of D's, because for most courses I believe D will be a failure, we use C instead. So C's get degrees, but generally the idea is
Mm-hmm.
the same.
But I think about that next time you're wondering, oh, how well did my doctor do medical school? Probably not that well.
Yeah, I mean that does explain why some doctors
Uh,
aren't always the best when you go see them. But we hope that the doctors that you do see will provide you with enough care. Hopefully.
it's sometimes it feels almost like you're getting a toss up between, do you want a doctor that's competent or do you want a doctor that's gonna hold your hand? You don't always get both. If it was up to me, I'd take competent almost the entire time, because as your doctor could be the nicest doctor in the world, but if they miss something that they could have had, then well, you're dead.
Uh, maybe that's a bit dark, but that is reality.
Yeah.
Hence why in the server we do encourage you guys to actually learn fitness and health on your own, because although
Oh, I
you can and should trust your doctor, it's always better to go in educated at the very least.
I would definitely recommend that. Just make sure your sources are reliable, because here's a wee thing: doctors, unless they actively search for it, are given very little teaching in forms of fitness and weightlifting, cardiovascular exercise, and overall nutrition. We're actually not taught that much. In fact, I remember my nutrition lectures only being a few weeks, if that.
Wait,
We're taught
oh, continue. Sorry.
we're taught more about how nutrition affects certain bodily systems and disease rather than how to optimize it for health, because
Yeah, yeah,
that's not
yeah.
really our job. Our job isn't to get you to the peak of fitness; it's to get you good enough so you don't come back.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing. I've been trying to get like people to understand this in the server, and even in people I know in real life, that the difference between like doctors and trainers. I mean, not that most trainers are good anyways, but basically, people need to get the idea that most doctors, their job is to get you from the negatives to a net zero, right? Their job
Mhm.
isn't to get you into the positive. It's just to get you from net zero, from dying into not dying, and then you're good to go.
Aye, because as far as we're concerned, the peak of health in medicine is you walk for 30 minutes a day, you do some form of exercise, you eat your veggies, you don't drink too much, you don't smoke, and you don't sit about on your arse all day. That is a peak of health for medicine. In fact, because that's in our national guidelines, that's in international guidelines even. Just keep
Yeah.
to that and everything else will come. But in fact, we'd even discourage people from, if we're going from a pure medical point of view, we'd discourage people from going too far into training because of the injury risk. And we'd consider the injury risk to outweigh any health benefits from gaining a very strong or very large physique.
I mean,
That's
that
not.
is.
That's not. To,
Oh, sorry, I continue. I
I mean,
can't tell when you're like finished
sorry.
talking. Sorry.
Sorry. It's just. It's not to say don't get big or don't get strong. Absolutely do that. It's what you want, but don't expect your doctor to be going, you need to be able to bench 140 kilos, or you need to be able to overhead press your body weight. Yeah, they're not going to want that. That's them saying, we want you to get a rotator cuff injury.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think, especially in the direction that health and fitness and wellness is going, and I think we are heading in the right direction, especially
Mm-hmm.
like educating both the average person and doctors that maybe you should start encouraging people to actually train stronger and stuff. Like I know for a fact that if you go to, at least nowadays, if you go to any general practitioner or any general doctor and
Mm-hmm.
tell them that doc, how do I get to like a bodyweight overhead press, they'd probably actively discourage you from doing so, right?
To get, uh, sorry, to get to a certain body weight.
No, to get to strong enough that you can overhead press your own body weight.
To overhead press your own body weights, they would probably, I don't think many of them would actively discourage it, but they'd probably just say, if that's what you really want, they wouldn't have any real advice for you apart from go to the gym and talk to someone there. We're not trainers,
That
and that's
is,
the point.
yeah. Uh,
Uh, the thing is, this is something that's very common on the wards. When we do rounds, we find the jobs that we need to do, and all of our patients are older, they're frailer, they have a lot of pre-existing conditions, and they need a bit of help. So what do? Oh, we don't see them ourselves. We refer them to physical therapy and occupational therapy to do that job for us. They're the people that handle that
that
end
field.
of the get stronger, get fitter, get better end of medicine. We don't touch that. If they come to us about physiotherapy exercise, oh no. Unless you're a rheumatologist who deals with with or orthopedist who deals with these sort of things, most doctors wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah. So I hope this, at least this portion, enlightens people on the fact that you should have certain expectations when going to your general practitioner versus when you're going to a professional in that particular field. Just have your expectations correct and don't expect any more, any less from that.
Aye, exactly. If you go to a doctor, their job is to get you healthy, not to get you fit as per. They might help you with weight loss, they might help you with a bit of cardio, but apart from that, if you want to get big, strong, that area of things, you're best going to a gym because there'll be someone there that knows a lot more about putting on muscle in a better fashion than the vast majority of doctors.
Yeah. Even if the info is still bro science level, they likely do still know a bit more. Hence why some of the members have come up saying that they go to a doctor and the doctor just discourages them from exercise entirely, which from a doctor's perspective, if something hurts you when you're doing exercise, just leave it because it'd be the simplest option, right?
Most of the time, a very common thing in GPs. I don't want to generalize because I am still a student. I'm not a doctor yet.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
a common thing, at least from mine and others' observations, is a typical GP appointment will go like this: it hurts when I lift my shoulder, or it hurts when I bend over like this, or well, it could be anything. Take some ibuprofen, take some paracetamol, come back in 4 weeks if it doesn't resolve. And most people either go back in 4 weeks and maybe get a more thorough examination behind it, in which case exercise would probably still be discouraged, or they just don't have the pain anymore because it healed up on its own, or they're just so discouraged by their initial appointment that they just don't bother going direct to the GP because they feel it's useless. But yeah, that's fairly common. But ultimately, it's a balance of risk and benefit. If someone has an injury in their shoulder and they say, "Oh, will this stop me from bench pressing and overhead press?" The first thing that'll probably go off in that doctor's mind is they got this from bench press doing overhead press, which, to be honest, in most likelihood they did. And our job isn't to make you fit enough so you can go back to that. Our job is to make the thing stop hurting. And the easiest way to make it stop hurting is to stop doing the thing that's hurting it.
Yep.
So we're not going to say, "Oh, some might say, make sure you're doing a proper form, get a trainer, make sure you get proper rest before and after." But in most likelihood, they're going to say, stop doing it for a few weeks and then see how it goes. And I can understand if you're a beginner and you're starting off and you're getting some gains, 2 weeks off can make you feel like you've just gone back to the start again. That can be really disheartening. But then you'll end up going back, using a proper form, not going to the right people to get advice, worsen it, and then you're off not for 2 weeks but for 2 months.
Yeah. But I know for a fact that's like some people's experiences, especially in the server. But actually, moving on from that, hopefully
Mm-hmm.
this whole portion has cleared up some misconceptions on expectations for going to doctor. But
Mm-hmm.
I actually want to move on to schedules. So you, knowing your completely busy schedule, how do you fit in fitness?
Recently, not as much as I used to. When I did my old GP placement, which was an hour commute there, an hour commute back, 8 hours work there, usually on average, plus trying to fit in studying, I would go to the gym 3 times a day, 6 a.m., Monday, Wednesday,
Wait,
Friday morning.
3 times a day, three times a week.
3 times a week, sorry, 3 times a week. No, I'd do it 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, up at 6 a.m.,
Yeah.
go to the gym, run back, shove something down my throat, run to catch the bus, get on with my day, try and study on the bus if I could. Yeah, so that was fun. Right now, I can't really do too much because between doing between 8, 9, 12-hour days in the hospital, having to study for finals, it's taking a bit of a back seat. But I do have a pull-up bar, I have a dip station, I have room in my flats to do things like L-sits, push-ups, all that jazz. So I can still fit it in when I have the time, and also importantly when I remember. But I will admit it's taking a bit of a back seat. So what I'm doing in the meantime is, when I have a bit more time or relax, I'll go for a long walk. I'll spend my days walking just to get the steps in. And diet, definitely diet. I try to cook as healthily as I can in the circumstances. Not every day, but as well as I can.
So the rumors are true that yes, even no matter how busy you are, you always got time to fit fitness somewhere in there.
You've always got time to fit fitness in somewhere. It's just about how you do and managing expectations. Like, yes, sure, I could go to the gym. I could do a full push pull legs workout. I could, or a full body 3 times a week. But the big three with accessories and all that, I could fit that in if I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and managed it around my studying and my clinics and trying to fit in a bit of time relaxing in the evening with my girlfriend. But I would be so burnt out that it would do me more detriment by doing that at the gym, then it would do me good in the fitness. Because I wouldn't have as much time to cook healthy meals. I wouldn't have as much time to plan out my study. I wouldn't have much time to plan out finances because I'm a broke student. I don't exactly have all the money in the world to live off of for my food and training.
Mood.
So between all that, it's a lot easier and sometimes a lot better to just fit in what you can, even if it's just doing an occasional set of pull-ups, push-ups, and dips here and there, or going on a long walk just to relax yourself.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think this is something that we should explain a bit better. That especially what you mentioned on expectations, you always have time to fit in fitness, but maybe it might not be your whole powerlifting program where you have to stack up 5 plates to get to your first working set of
Oh,
squats, and then going on into your accessory squats, into your maybe back accessories or whatever. Yeah, you might not be able to fit in all that, but having some time to do maybe 2 sets to failure on push-ups and pull-ups a day, that's completely easy. You can do that anytime, anywhere.
exactly. It's about greasing the groove. If you greasing the groove is also the concept that saved a lot of fitness for me. Just stopping, get it done. Stop it, get it done just throughout the day. Because it's a lot easier to fit in like 5 to 10 minute mini sessions where you just squeeze out the sets and then just do something later in the day than to have the time to sit down or well, stand up really and power through a whole 45 minutes to an hour session. And a common thing I see in the server are especially a lot of new guys that come in and have this very understandable beginner all or nothing attitude and either powering through these very high weight low rep sets with 5 to 6 minutes rest, doing this alongside accessories and 3 of 10 and warm ups and cool downs and yeah, there's there's no way you're gonna stick to that constantly if you have a job or that or university plus a social life plus having to cook plus having to get money. Yeah, it sounds really good when you start out, but then your fourth or fifth day waking up at 5:30 to make it work, you're just gonna resent it.
Yeah. Oh man, thinking about all that, it does amaze me how some people actually do manage to do that. Like, but then again, like, I'm sure you're familiar with Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right?
Boy.
Uh, so you know how he does his, I think, 3 a.m., 4 a.m. workouts or something. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then posted it as a motivational thing, like, yeah, I got an all or nothing workout, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
stuff
Aye.
like that. Like, it's inspirational that yeah, some people do cherish their time enough that they will wake up and make it scheduled to wake up that early to fit in everything that they need in for the day. But at the same time, whenever they do that and post it as some like all or nothing grinding mindset, whatever, it also dilutes the average person into thinking that if they want to achieve what they achieve, they have to do the exact same thing with the exact same amount of effort, which isn't the case at all. Like fitness or like
Oh, aye.
being fit, building muscle or losing weight, it's just consistency. As long as you can do something towards that goal consistently, you're set, right?
Exactly. It's better to do a wee bit than not at all, especially on morning that right now. And what people don't understand is these influencers, especially the big celebrities like The Rock, they aren't working this around an extremely busy life where they have to earn money. These guys are already sitting on thousands or tens of thousands or millions. They have trainers that come in and do their programming. They have dietitians that come in and make their meals done. They have home gyms where they don't have to travel half an hour to the gym or 15 minutes
Yeah,
to the gym and
doesn't The
back.
Rock have like a mobile gym that follows him wherever he
He
goes?
does, aye.
Right, a full set gym.
And all those small things add up. Like you have to take, I don't know, half an hour out your day to cook a decent meal. You have to take time out your day to go shopping, time out your week to go shopping to get the good ingredients for that meal.
Yeah.
You have to take time to go to the gym. You have to take time at the gym. And unlike The Rock, who has all his own equipment, if all the benches are taken, you have to spend time waiting around between your sets for someone to get off, or someone to get out the squat rack, or someone to get off the one weighted dumbbells that you wanted to use for about 20 minutes now, and someone is still using them. Well, he definitely doesn't have that problem. And Also, you have a job. If you're working, and especially if you're on the poorer end, fitness is not going to be as much a priority as getting your work done or getting on time to work. For him, fitness is his priority because fitness is his work. He has to be lean for his roles. He's paid to be lean for his roles. He's paid to be big. He's paid to look like a brick house. But it's just not the case for the rest of us.
Yeah, it's hard to explain like expectations and reality to a lot of people. They need to like experience it themselves to really understand all of it. But also at the same time, I hope people don't feel discouraged about this. That oh, I can't look like that because like I'm not living the life or whatever. Rather, the way you should think about it is that this is even better. That whatever goal you have, you can achieve with almost bare minimum effort as long as you're consistent. And if you do want to
Exactly.
achieve, yeah, and if you do want to achieve higher, say that you actually are looking into being a competitive powerlifter, that's completely possible. It's just going to take a bit longer than you expect. Let's say you want to go for a 220 kilogram squat and you're at like 160 right now, and you can't dedicate as much time because you have family, kids, whatever. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that you won't
Mhm.
get to a 220 kilogram squat. You'd probably still get it, just it'll just take more time than you expected because you gotta make time for other things that are in life.
Exactly. I mean, if you do have the time to go to the gym properly and eat properly, you burn that around your job, that is smashing, and I envy you for that. But for most people, it's just not practical and it's not feasible. And it's also a matter of perspective. People's goals can be easily warped by what they see on Instagram, what they see on YouTube, TikTok, from everyone else that's posting there who has 3D delts and rock hard abs, just absolutely giant, showing how they're pressing out 3 plate benches as a warm up. I mean, most people lose perspective of most men could bench around 60. If you can bench 100, you're in the top 10% of strength. That is pretty much a fact. If you can bench 3 plates, you are among the strongest people in the world. And people tend to lose sight of that because they see someone going for 4 benches in a professional thing, or they see powerlifters and they see other professionals going at it and doing things that they can't even imagine. But they don't realize that most people look at them or would look at them, seeing them lift 100, 140 kilos and think, I could never do that. And that's just bench. Almost every exercise has that same effect.
Yeah, totally. And oh man, how do I word this in a easy to understandable way that people can accept? Reevaluate your expectations and your goals. We get it when
And
you're yeah we get it when you're like a young teenager. You're hot blooded and everything, and you want that, but like honestly, as someone who has lifted for as long as I have been there, and over time, you just realize that they're not like as big of a deal as you thought they were.
it's a here the moment kind of thing. I mean, I still go in
Yeah.
and out of it now, where I'll think, yeah, I'll get this done, I'll hit this, I'll end up doing muscle ups by the end, and then work gets in the way. Uh, it's also about priorities. Sure, having having that physique and having those goals would definitely be something amazing, but it requires sacrifice. It absolutely requires sacrifice. And there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't want to put that in. It's absolutely fine to say, I don't I could put it in but I don't want to, but I'm more than happy to do, say, just 3 sets here and there, just something to keep it going. And that's absolutely fine. Still much better than what most people are doing.
Mm-hmm. Much better than, especially most people's parents. Like, just look at your parents. Most of the time, your parents won't likely be as fit or doing what you're doing at your age.
Oh no
So,
no 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 no! Don't take my parents as an example.
why? Oh, this is something I've never
uh,
known. What are your parents really fit?
yeah, my dad works in anti-terrorism and he's in his 50s. Can still run like hell. Can still bench like hell. My grandfather, he could do a sub 3 hour marathon in his 40s, and he still runs every day. So I wouldn't take my family as an example.
Okay, yeah, yeah, okay. If you have Connor's parents, then yeah, you might want to have that family pressure on you just a tad bit, because if they can keep up to their age, there's no reason why you can't, unless you have some weird condition.
I mean, my granddad, he still drags me around the mountains across Scotland, and we just we'll bounce up and down the things. And the thing is, we stay about the same pace. It's a bit depressing that a man in his 70s is keeping at the same pace as a young 22-year-old.
Well, on the bright side, Connor, like, you can say that you do have the fitness genes. At least you just need to find time to make use of them.
Who knows? Perhaps I'll take that academic post just so I could skyve off and go to the gym. It's becoming very tempting now.
Oh, yeah. For what we were talking about previously, I just wanted to make this clear that we're not discouraging you from having uh goals, things that you want to
No,
achieve.
not at all.
Yeah, but you just need to realize that the goals that you set right now are literally, like Connor said earlier, in the moment. Maybe just 3 months, 4 months from now, you wouldn't even care about them anymore. Or, like, as every other goal goes through, that once you've achieved it, you want something more, you want something else. So, but just keep in mind that whatever things you set for yourself are in the moment, and your interests, your goals could completely change in just a few months.
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize that the gym is definitely supplementary to fitness.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people will happily go to the gym, happily push out reps, happily push out sets to oblivion for their goal, and then stop by McDonald's every single time on the way back. It's, I mean, I used to do it in a very controlled fashion, like calorie counting. I think, okay, if I get just a triple cheeseburger, take off the cheese, that's 510 calories and 46 grams of protein. So yeah, that's a really good after snack. So that would be my treat, and it would still work in, but not everyone does that. People will go out after and come back with a large Big Mac, large fries, milkshake, the lot.
Oh
It
man.
definitely doesn't. It definitely doesn't help because the gym that was closest to me, that still is right next to this McDonald's. So
Oh
you
right.
smell it when you come right out.
Right, I remember you mentioning that before, that your gym is not only is your gym really close to McDonald's, but isn't the place that you stay at also really close to this very good smelling bakery?
Oh, that was bad. The bakery unfortunately shut down because of
Aw.
rent disputes, but they operate somewhere else now. So we actually got a free cake for our birthday because they knew us that well,
Oh.
and they even decorated it according to our wee in jokes. So my girlfriend and I have an in joke between a couple of Pokemon like Skitty and Magikarp and all that. So they actually did models of Pokemon, including a Magikarp, to put on the cake, give it to us for free as a present.
Aw, that's so sweet of them. But like, for them to know you
I,
that well, that kind of tells us that you've been there quite often, haven't you?
uh, maybe.
Oh, uh,
Ah, definitely more than maybe. But downstairs is shut now. But I talked to the guy who was refurbishing it. He said that the new shop that's opening up down there is also going to be a bakery. So
oh my. Well,
I
fitness
know
continues to be an ever evolving challenge for you, isn't it, Connor?
it. It it really does. It does not help that I live right above where it'll be. And last time, whenever they baked brownies or wherever they baked fish cakes or whatever it was, we'd get the smell coming up through the walls. It was torturous.
Honestly, I like to imagine how Ice would be like if he lived in your place right now with McDonald's right next to the
Oh,
gym
how,
and a
oh
bakery.
God.
Like next doing his cutting phase, I wonder if he could last. Ooh.
If Iceland,
Oh,
if ice lived here with everything that's around, Cooker would never be on. His two bouncing back and forth constantly.
yeah. Though on the other hand, honestly, like your place right now with everything that it has, definitely is a bulker's dream. Like delicious food, cheap fast food all the time nearby is a bulker's dream.
It is definitely bulk with the stream. Too bad. I definitely need to cut. But for me, if the one thing that keeps me going through fitness is that I absolutely love to cook. I do all
Mm.
kinds of cuisine. I do all sorts of meals, meat, no meat, different carbs, no carbs, whatever. I can do pretty much do it all. And it's definitely a motivator that I can make myself a nice lean meal with plenty of protein that's filling, delicious, and sticks to a good calorie deficit without thinking, oh fuck, chicken and broccoli again. Just let me know.
Oh, I wonder if we might need to bleep that, but oh well, I don't think YouTube would mind some profanity here and
Uh,
there.
sorry, YouTube. Sorry, server. I'll just swear in Scots terms now so no one will understand.
Yeah, honestly, that probably might be better. But
But a lot of people really don't realise that for the calories that you get in grilled chicken, broccoli, and rice, you get the same if you just made yourself a very nice chicken madras.
oh, which is around how many
Uh,
calories?
if you make it with a thing of rice and a portion, about 650.
Oh, that sounds like a
And
pretty.
it's a good bulk meal because you can easily scale it up, and it's a good cut meal because you don't need tons with it. You can even add in a few poppadoms to get in those extra fats.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a delicious snack. And honestly, like only 650. Nice.
The thing is, 650, but it's definitely scalable, and that's a whole chicken breast in there.
Ah, yeah, yeah. If you can scale it, you could probably have it reach 1K or something. Easy.
Easy, you just add in some more, or if you or add some dal on the side, which is what I usually do. So chicken curry with a nice green lentil dal with rice and maybe a few poppadoms. And it's a nice big meal. It will keep you filled, but it's not a giant amount of calories, and there's nothing that unhealthy in there.
Now I'm thinking, what if we add hummus to it? I think that would actually be great as well. Hummus.
Ooh, the thing is, I can make a chickpea dal as well, like mix the lentils with
Mm.
chickpeas together. Oh, now I want curry now, but I don't know why I'm complaining. I'm having arancini tonight.
Oh. Oh.
I
Before.
know, pinnacle of health.
Yeah. This is peak health, ladies and gentlemen. Peak health.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually,
To do peak health.
yeah. And actually, so since that you've made the suggestion to start cursing in a foreign language instead of English for YouTube's sake, I'm actually thinking of moving this on to talk about something that you and me both would really feel like cursing at, and that is
Mm-hmm.
Psalms. Let's talk about Psalms for a bit, just a tad bit.
Oh, okay. What about them?
So, what can you tell us about Psalms? We touched Psalms a bit with on the previous episode with Ani, but we didn't have much time doing that. But now let's get the perspective of a medical student on Psalms, and especially on how almost every single person, at least so far, that comes onto the sermon that's asking about Psalms or is hopping on Psalms is always the type of person who lives in the moment. Oh, that bothers me so much. But sorry, Connor, go on.
You've got me at a bit of a disadvantage here. I've had a bit of a mind blank. Sam's, what is that again? I know it.
Oh, selective androgen receptor modulators?
Oh
Huh?
god, god, no, 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 no. Those. Oh Christ.
Yep.
Why has everyone suddenly become obsessed with it? I honestly don't get it. Do they just think oh, androgen, I will suddenly get my testosterone going through the roof because there's androgen in it today. Because honestly, that must be how they think.
Yeah, that and also because for some reason they've been marketed as steroids without consequences, which, if you think about it,
They're,
that
they're not
only
steroids and they have consequences.
well, yeah, that too, but also the reason why steroids work so well is because they have consequences. If you're taking something
hmm
that supposedly has no consequences, then you're just basically taking something that, sorry YouTube, minor
There's
language,
nothing.
yeah, half-ass. You're basically taking something half-ass.
Aye, exactly. And even if you do take steroids, as I'm sure most people here listening to this would know, or if they don't, they should, steroids work at their best if you're doing everything else to your peak. Your diet is immaculate, your program is targeted to each day of each week of each month, and you are having absolute peak recovery as it is, and you are still plateauing. The steroids definitely do help. But for some newbie that's been going for between 6 months and 2 years, and also beyond at that point, suddenly thinking, oh, if I take this steroid-esque androgen receptor, selective androgen receptor, also, it's giving me a headache thinking of it. But suddenly, then I'll suddenly be able to go back to the stage where I could pack it on everything, get back to that linear progression, just go straight through and sail my way over to, I don't know, deadlifting 250 kilos. I picked a completely arbitrary target there, but regardless,
Mhm.
aye, it's. I don't know what people think when they see these supplements online that it's going to replace old-fashioned hard work and time. People have been trying to replace hard work and time for the last few thousand years, and no one's really done anything yet.
Yeah, it never works out. But at the same time, it's how do I explain this? I wanted to think of a way to say this in a as politely as I can, but I don't think saying it politely will get the message across. So I'll just say it bluntly. If you are a mediocre athlete, taking steroids or taking SARMs will not make you into a good athlete. You will still be a mediocre athlete. Genetics are
That's
genetics.
pretty. That's putting it pretty mildly, as far as I'm concerned. Aye, if you're not doing the best before, you're not going to do the best after. The people who have really stood out from steroids were people who already really stood out, who were already top of their game, top of their league, top of their lifting table. It's not the people who came absolute bottom time after time, or people who just have been doing mediocre, like you said. It's people who've already been at top of their game, but they still want to get better, not for anyone else, but for themselves,
Yep.
which is a debatable reason to start using steroids, but it's
Arguably unhealthy
someone's
obsession.
choice. It's someone's choice, as many other decisions that are overall detrimental to health. But yeah, it's for a very select few people that to actually gain some benefits that brings more benefits than risk to their life as they see it. Yeah, I think most people would take steroids and most of these things if they truly understood implement the implications that it had on their gonads, their kidneys, their liver.
Ooh, yeah. Unfortunately, they don't. Which, actually, while you're here, given your medical background and knowledge, why don't we actually start talking about that in medical level detail about well, for example, SARMs, androgen receptors. Why don't you talk about a bit about androgen, cholesterol, testosterone, and basically how hormones work, so that we can finally settle the score on how do hormones actually work? Because I can
You want me?
guarantee you, a
Okay,
lot of people do not know how
do
they work.
okay. How do hormones work? I feel I had 6 months of this in medical school, so condensing this down into a wee talk. Okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so hormones, as you've probably heard before, are essentially chemical messengers. are wee molecules and proteins that are released into the blood, and they will attach to a cell to get the cell to perform a certain function. Like the hormone vasopressin, or antidiuretic hormone, is released from the hypothalamus pituitary and goes through the blood and attaches to cells in the kidney to say, look, stop getting rid of the water, we need the water. But that's not all it does. It'll also attach to other tissues and say, okay, blood vessels, I need you to constrict, or whatever it may be. I'm a bit rusty. But that's how they work. That's just other parts of the body. And yes, there are some, like growth hormone or insulin, growth factor, and testosterone, that can attach to skeletal muscle and say, okay, take in these nutrients to grow. We want you to grow. But it's not as simple as just shoving things into your system to increase it, because you can't just increase the power of the hormone that says, okay, tell these muscles to grow, but don't do anything else. There are some ways to do it, especially for things like in antidepressants, for instance, selective serotonin uptake inhibitors. They selectively stop serotonin from being reuptaken into your neurons, and they target a specific thing. But we don't have many of those for hormones, at least not to my knowledge. So yeah, your testosterone, you could easily take steroids that cause your skeletal muscle to get this message to bulge up. But what happens is you're giving your body an ectopic source. So your brain is realizing, wait a minute, we don't need to produce this much anymore because we're getting it somewhere else, I guess. So, okay, let's just cut the operation. So your brain goes, all right, androgens, you're fine. Kidneys, adrenal glands, testes, your job's done, you're absolutely fine. And then they respond going, right-o. So they realize there's not much for them to do because they're just being taken care of by the ectopic source, the extra source of hormones or steroids that leads to hormone production or whatever it may be. And as a response, Leydig cells in the testes will no longer produce testosterone or stimulate production, so they will shrink or shrivel in some cases in response to that. Your adrenal glands don't have to create as much glucocorticoids for steroids as they used to, so they will shrivel up and cause all sorts of fun, nasty stuff. And this has a cascade effect, because hormones don't just react with cells to do one function, they can also react with cells to make other hormones. Hell, the most of the hormones in the body are not to perform a function, it's to regulate other hormones. So when people take things that artificially increase their testosterone or artificially do whatever it may be, there are so many unforetold consequences in doing that it's not just a case of you take it, you get bigger muscles. It will not give you bigger muscles per se, it just means you have an extra capability because you have more hormones allowing you to decrease your recovery a bit and take in a bit more nutrition. It's a marginal increase. But the detriments to it, from what it does to your gonads, what it does to your entire endocrine system, just your entire body, you would have to be very heavily consider the implications of that before even touching it, honestly. I hope I made it as clear as possible, trying to get the line of thought in there to explain it as well as I could off the back of my head.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's a great explanation. But I do want to ask you to mention something else about hormones that people don't seem to get or not think about whenever they mention hormones. When something increases, something else also decreases. But when something increases, something else is also released to tell the body to stop increasing that particular thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was explaining, perhaps in a roundabout way, a bit like hormones. So it's called a negative feedback cycle, as I'm sure many of you will know, where we'll take testosterone as an example, because I'm sure that's the hormone most of you are interested in. When testosterone is produced, it then in the bloodstream will go back to the hypothalamus to say, yep, I'm here, I'm being produced. Yeah, don't need to make as much of me anymore. So then the hypothalamus will produce gonadotropin inhibiting hormone, or is it? I may be wrong there, but it's along those lines. And then that, or at least cut down on the amount of gonadotropin. Then after that, it will cut down on the amount of luteinizing hormone produced by the pituitary, which will then reduce the amount of testosterone produced in the interstitial Leydig cells in the testes, which will then produce less testosterone, go back up, say we need a bit more, the hypothalamus will make a bit more gonadotropin, pituitary make a bit more luteinizing hormone, and so forth. It's a delicate cycle where it's always fluctuating a wee bit to keep that going. But like I said, if you suddenly add a pile of ectopic extra source testosterone into the system, just piling it in there, going, all right, as much as possible, get in there, then your hypothalamus is going to go, why the hell am I still making gonadotropin? We have plenty of it here. So they'll just cut out. And yeah, whenever almost all hormones work on a negative feedback loop like that. So if you just give it a pile of sources that don't require your body to actually metabolize it or produce it, then it's just going to cut out production. It's as simple as that. There's many things like Cushing's disease or Addison's disease where that can be a cause.
Yeah. Okay. So this is exactly what I was hoping for coming from you, but I know some people definitely lost their way doing that whole explanation. So I'm gonna try and simplify it in layman's terms.
Oh, hi.
For those who didn't manage to keep up. Basically, when you feel like peeing, your body sends hormones that tell you that you need to pee. But once you relieve yourself, there's no point in sending those hormones anymore. So you instead, because there's a bunch of those hormones in your body, but the need to pee because your bladder's already been relieved, it'll release other hormones to stop those hormones telling you that you need to pee from being produced. So you no longer feel like you need to go to the bathroom. Hopefully that's a simple enough explanation to help people understand.
I'd say that's a good way to explain it. Like when a real example of medicine, which is used a lot, is when when your pee is dark or yellow, that you're dehydrated, and when it's clear, you're hydrated.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of hormones. Your body will look at how hydrated you are and go and send hormones to say, okay, you can put more of that into the pee. We don't need that much water. And then when you're a bit more dehydrated, because you've put it in, they'll say, okay, now you can start retaining a bit more water. And that's how it works. It's everything to keep a delicate balance, or homeostasis, as is drilled into our heads.
Ah, yes. Homeostasis. A key word that people don't get on why programs work or why we recommend certain programs versus other programs, which I think is a great way to transition into something else that people might not have a full understanding on. Connor, why don't we bring this into metabolism?
Oh, this is going to be fun.
Go crazy, my man.
Right.
So, a common misconception people always have about metabolism is, oh, I have such a high metabolism, I can't gain weight. Or I can't lose weight because I have a slow metabolism. How about we clear the subject on how metabolism actually works and what it actually is?
Okay, so metabolism simply is the balance of energy your body burns versus energy your body has. So your metabolism is the encompassment of everything that goes on in your body, from the processes that lead you to walk and eat and talk and think and do whatever it is, to the minuscule protein production and hormones that we talked about. It's happening in every cell in your body. Now, people may think I have a very fast or I have a very slow metabolism, but it doesn't entirely work like that. You can't have a metabolism that's insanely fast within medical conditions because What are your cells doing that is leading for you to burn that much energy? The energy, your calories you have to eat has to be doing something. It's not like your cells are suddenly going, "Ooh, you know what? I feel like burning an extra few grams of fat today, so I'm just gonna do it. Just gonna burn some fat." Cells don't just randomly burn fat. If they did, then there would be no reason for obesity. And likewise, sure, if you're starving, they may slow down metabolism to conserve energy, but they're not going to stop. They're not suddenly going to go, "Oh, we've not had as much to eat today. I guess we'll just not do this." Cells can't do that. Cells just do what they need to do. No more, no less. So a person doesn't have an insanely high metabolism or an insanely low metabolism purely just because, oh, they eat this and they don't get fat, or they eat this and can't put on weight, or they eat this and they're still fat. There's always another factor. You can always lose weight and you can always gain weight. There is no excuse for either.
Now, you did say that there was no excuse, but you and me both know that there are certain medical conditions where
Mm-hmm.
either side is a tad bit harder than the usual for a normal person. Now, most people on the server, I'll say this flat out, you guys do not have these conditions. But just to be clear, can you state the conditions where you would actually have a hard time gaining weight or losing weight should you have XYZ condition?
Oh, trying to think now. Yep. Hypo and hyperthyroidism, they can ultimately cause issues with weight gain and weight loss, although you can still gain and lose weight with this.
Yep, just
Uh,
harder.
a lot of mental conditions, of course, depression, anxiety, can lead to differences with eating habits, but also the medications you're on can lead to appetite suppression or appetite increase, most usually appetite increase. There's also other ones like Gaucher's disease, or maple. A fun one is maple syrup urine disease, where you just pee
Uh,
out all your sugar. There's also diabetes insipidus,
mhm.
where you also pee out all your sugar. Uh, and there's a lot of them, but the thing is, they're very rare. Ultimately, one that a lot of people can have that can truly be an issue for them to lose weight is familial hypercholesterolemia, which is a genetic tendency for people to have a bit more fat or, well, cholesterol, triglycerides in their blood, which can contribute to something known as metabolic syndrome,
Oh.
which is just metabolic syndrome. Also, I don't like the name of it. It makes it sound like it's just led to them being unable to lose weight.
Yeah, the name is
What it, what
misleading.
it, what it means is their lifestyle or medical condition, whatever it has messed with their metabolism. Metabolic syndrome is essentially a state of obesity combined with high blood sugar, not necessarily diabetes, but a form of insulin resistance, along with maybe some fatty liver disease or issues with having sex, erections, or issues with ovarian function. Just a mix of all of these in one unfortunate syndrome, which
Ah,
is, but you know what the treatment is?
let me
And
guess. Diet and exercise.
how did you know?
I don't know, man. I guess I just know these things.
I mean, yeah, it's that simple. If you are like that, which is the most common syndrome from obesity, diet and exercise is not just the management, but the cure. There are some medications you can take to manage things like your diabetes if you develop it, or cardiovascular health risks. But apart from that, it is diet and exercise. There is un- there is no way for you to have such a metabolism that's so fast or so slow that you can't work around it. And if you do, you would have known about it from your doctor by now.
See, exactly. This is exactly what I've been saying every single time this pops up. If you actually had some crazy fast metabolism that's abnormal or crazy slow metabolism that is abnormal, you would likely be hospitalized because you would have some serious issues if that was the case.
Oh, aye, there. I mean, I see it on the server as well. People going, I've been eating this much. I've been eating, what, 5,000 calories a day and I've not been gaining weight. I guess just you don't know how to count calories then.
Yeah, but
It's
continue.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous the amount of people that will go on and think that they've been eating insane amounts of food and they can't gain weight and it's just impossible. No, you're just not eating enough. Come on, when I was 16, I'd eat anything that was put on a plate. There is nothing that you could possibly do that would not stop you from gaining weight if you put on the pounds.
Man, exactly. Like, man, we've been saying this for such a long time, and I know it's like a super simple answer, especially when you're the type of beginner who wants like, no, I don't want the simple answer. I want the more scientific, specific answer. But yes, in the end, it really just comes down to if you're not gaining weight, you're not eating enough. If you're not losing weight, you're eating too much. That's really
Yeah.
all there is to it.
Aye, you can look into the minute details absolutely all you want, but saying, oh, if I cut out exactly this amount of carbohydrates and add this amount of fat, then I'll suddenly be able to lose that weight. Or if I add this amount of carbs and this amount of fat, then that's what's going to push me over. No, just eat a bloody hamburger or something. I just put an extra portion on your plate. No one is, not even your body is counting exactly how many carbs and fats and proteins you're eating and is deciding how to allocate them according to your workout plan. It's just taking them in and deciding, oh, we need protein, we'll shove it there. Oh, we need carbs, shove it there. Oh, some fat, we'll store it here.
Yeah. Oh man, it's a relieving. Finally, we can have like you blatantly saying this to all the masses. Yes.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah, because but I mean, even then, people are still gonna like complain about it, like, because they, how do I say this? Coming from a former skinny guy, if you're skinny and you think you're eating a lot and you're not getting weight, fun fact, you're not eating enough and you're not eating a lot. Because as skinny people, or people who came from the skinniest side of the spectrum, people like us, we've never eaten a lot. So,
You people, you people should enjoy it. I would love to be able to be on the skinny side again, where I could just eat what I pleased and a pound wouldn't come on.
oh yeah, exactly.
I
But
love you.
at the same time, it's because we've been skinny our whole lives, we've clearly not eaten a lot our whole lives. So the moment you eat just a tad bit more, or the amount any normal person would eat, it seems too much because if it's just not something that you're used to. But whether you like it or not, you're still gonna have to eat more and more if you want to keep gaining weight. I'm sorry, guys,
Oh, I
but
definitely.
yeah, continue,
It
continue.
could be worse. You could be on the opposite end, where you could be obese or overweight, and you have to either work out and just eat and take a lot longer, or go on a long cut, then go on a long bulk, and do what you've done. If you're skinny and you just have to eat to bulk up, count your blessings that you get to skip the weight loss portion of that journey.
Yeah. Or like if you're on the fatter side, you can always just say you can skip the bulking side of it because honestly, from my perspective, unless you're severely obese, obviously, or like you're almost severely obese or severely overweight, personally, I would just stay that weight and maintain and just train, and just get stupid strong. Cause from coming from the skinnier side, people like that have basically skipped the bulking phase and they can just maintain and just get stupid strong if they wanted to. But I understand that if you come from that end of the spectrum and you've always dreamed about looking aesthetic with abs, popping delts, cobra back and everything, then you definitely have that urge to want to cut down.
If Even if you're not obese, even if you're just overweight, if you're like, I don't know, 6 foot tall and 110 kilos, you can just maintain or even cut a wee bit, just get your protein in, go to the gym, and come out of it a few months, years later, so much better without having to work too much and making sure you eat too much. Eat enough.
Oh yeah. Speaking of eating enough, an extra tip for you kids out there, because I started training when I was a teenager as well. Uh, I am fully supportive of young teenagers wanting to learn how to cook for their fitness journey. Don't get me wrong, I'm fully supportive of it, but sometimes you guys kind of miss the forest for the trees. If most of the time it's people who are on the skinny side and they want to gain weight, so they want to learn how to cook so they can meal prep for themselves and all of that, which is great. Honestly, it is really great, and I wish I had the initiative to do that myself when I was their age. But like I said, you're missing the forest for the trees. What you're trying to do is gain weight, and it's great that you're trying to learn how to cook and everything. But if what you cook isn't enough, then don't be so afraid of just eating whatever it is that your parents cook out for you. Your whole point is, I know you have this fear of being fat or getting fat, but come on, we've pretty much never been fat our entire lives, and we're very far from being really fat because we're on the skinny side in the first place. So stop being afraid of just eating whatever it is your parents put out and eating a lot of it, plus whatever food that you're able to cook for yourself. It'll do you a lot
Aye,
better.
because even though I knew how to cook from a young age, I just ate what my parents put in front of me. I didn't cook that often. And if you just need to supplement, just eat what your parents eat, and then you can always just cook yourself another meal on the side. Nothing says you just can't go and put
Mhm.
some mince and tatties or pasta, whatever, just cook up a quick 15-minute meal and scoff that down. No one says you can't just do that.
Or even like make some
It
quick
doesn't,
sandwiches.
to do. Just make a fuck ton of sandwiches.
Yeah. Oh man, that brings me back to the days I actually used to make like I think 4 5 sandwiches of just peanut butter and egg or something. Back in the day when,
Oh,
yeah, back in the day before I learned or realized that I could just make a liquid calories.
mhm. uh, I eat in such a weird fashion. I will have either no breakfast or the smallest breakfast, maybe a wee sandwich for lunch, and then I'll just have an absolutely massive dinner. That's
Oh,
how I know.
delicious.
Yes. Yeah, Ramadan was only about a month ago now, about a few weeks ago. People were posting their iftar meals online, and I was just like, that just looks like dinner for me.
Yeah. Though it hits different when you've been fasting for the whole day and without any water or
oh,
food.
I can imagine. I mean, I did it a couple of days when I was training in Inverness just to try it out. I just thought, no, I didn't feel too different. Although I only did it for a couple of days, I didn't do it for the whole month. But the only thing I couldn't do too much with was just not so much being able to drink water, but just having that coolness because I was working inside a warm, humid hospital all day.
Yeah. Plus, it's
So that was it.
an experience.
hmm It was it was something.
Oh yeah, and honestly, people overestimate how hard it is. It really isn't that hard. It's everything else that comes with it that's way harder. But
hmm
speaking about big meals, this is something I actually want to bring back to the whole teen thing. Like for teenagers, I'll give you an extra tip again. If you live or even young adults, if you live with your parents, because for some cultures like my culture in Asia, it's pretty common for like even when you're married you still live with your parents because it's just the whole culture thing of staying with your family for a really long time. But living with your parents is a huge cheat in my opinion. For bulking, for one, because why do you need to cook? Your parents are gonna cook for you anyways. You can just eat tons and tons of it. They're gonna cook for you. And
You're not like
two,
the rest of us that moved out at 18.
yeah. So for those of you who do move out, like I feel sorry for you guys because if you still live with your parents, it's a massive cheating when it comes to bulking because you can just have food almost all the time, and it saves a lot of money, at least for your personal finance.
Oh, it definitely does. Although I tend to, my girlfriend and I will do a meal plan every Sunday. We'll determine what we need to buy for the week to get through our meals, and that'll be us. Although we have our own habits. Like we'll go to the pub once a week and we'll usually have a meal there. Uh, and we'll maybe cook one unhealthy meal, well, unhealthy, or less healthy meal, I should say, a week. But apart from that, we tend to keep well to ourselves.
Oh, but
And uh,
uh,
I go on.
like you guys meal prep for the whole week, right? So that you have your whole meals for the entire week.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, nice.
Although breakfast for us is usually a couple of crumpets or a couple of slices of toast, or in my case, either toast or a coffee.
Uh, but like you guys have snacks in between sometimes, right? Like when you have like just walking by a store and you feel like having any snacks.
Oh, aye, sometimes. I mean, we try not to, because if I'm making a very big meal, the last thing we want is to have snacks in such a way that we can't finish it.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that's easy to put the weight on, which is either a tip for both people cutting to avoid and for people bulking to do, is snacks. Snacks are your best friend for weight gain and your detriment for cutting. Just if you have three half decent meals through the day, you will be absolutely fine for maintenance or for cutting. But snacks, that takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah. But they do
I
help a
could.
lot with bulking.
They do help a lot in bulking. Like if for me, because I'm trying to maintain and lose a wee bit actually, uh, it's easy for me to just have a small breakfast, a small lunch, and just have a giant dinner at the end of the day when I'm relaxing. I can eat the food, I can enjoy the food, maybe have a kind of beer with it or a can of Sprite or whatever. Just enjoy the whole thing, relax. My girlfriend's Spanish, and I have this one word, sobremesa, which means to just sit around the table after a meal and talk, and that's what I like, just the relaxed atmosphere of having a nice big meal, sat back, relax, no rush, not just eating for the sake of getting nutrients in, but actually enjoying the food. And if I snacked all the time, just absent-mindedly eating whatever shite was there while staring at the TV, I'd lose that. And I've had it all my life, and it's just something I like. And it's probably something that's a lot healthier to have in an attitude toward food, eating, weight gain, and weight loss than just deciding to look at everything in pure numbers. At
Oh yeah.
least in my perspective.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely merit in looking at things as pure numbers, but there's also the human factor to take into account. But I believe, like, if you've done it for a bit, then you should be, and if you have any self awareness at all, you can take into account the whole human factor into it.
Well, there is room for the numbers, but it goes back to what I said before, like having grilled chicken, broccoli, and steamed rice, or having madras with some dal and rice, about the same numbers, except one's going to be a lot tastier and probably going to have a lot more balanced nutrients in it as well. Which one do you really want to be eating?
Oh, obviously the healthier one.
The healthier one, and also the one that will actually bring you a bit of joy. If you are on a long-term fitness goal, one that's not just a few months but a few years, and you believe to attain it, you have to eat the plainest, the healthiest, but the plainest foods to get to it. You're not going to get very far.
Oh no. This like we mentioned earlier, like way earlier. Remember, consistency
Mm-hmm.
is key. If you can't hold that consistency, it doesn't matter how strict you can be for like the first week or the first month or whatever, or even the first year. If you can't maintain that for the rest of your life, it's not gonna be there.
Aye, it definitely isn't. I mean, your consistency can always go up and go down. There might be
Mm-hmm.
some months where you have a bit more free time, so you can do a bit more, or some months where everything gets in the way, so you have to cut back, which is what I'm doing right now. But it's just the way of life. You can't expect that every day, week, and month is going to be held to the exact same standards. That'd be ludicrous.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I almost forgot. Since man, okay, I have to admit, I am actually starting to get a bit hungry, and it's almost 1 a.m. because of all the food talk. But before we move on from the food talk, I actually want to talk about something that uh, there's actually two things, but I'm not sure which one we should touch about for this episode. So I'll let you pick, Connor. Do you want to talk about
Oh,
superfoods, quote unquote superfoods, or do you want to talk about trendy diets? Because I don't know if you saw,
oh,
but earlier we had,
tre- trendy diets, definitely.
yeah, because earlier in the server, I'm not sure what time it was for you, but we had a bit of a discussion regarding PUFAs, saturated fats, obesity, and of course, the carnivore diet.
Ooh, the carnivore diet, that brings me back.
Feel free to go crazy.
My Okay, so my parents for a while did the Atkins diet, which is very similar in that, unlike the carnivore diet, which is limited to only meat and the tiniest bits of non-meat, the Atkins, for those of you who aren't aware, is like keto but for your grandfather. It's a bit, you can eat all the meat you want, but almost nothing else. My dad, I remember him saying after he finished it that he was craving a salad of all things. And yeah, we got the weight off. Not for long, but it did.
Not for
And
long.
not especially for my mum, not for long, but it did. My dad actually helped regulate his diabetes a wee bit, but that's because he controls his diabetes really well to begin with. But I, every time I see a diet like this, I just think, do you really think that that's the best way to get everything going for you? To just cut out almost 80% of your diet in favor of thinking meat has protein, I need protein, I eat only meat. That's some very strange thinking to go around it. There are a few human societies that feast off only meat, but they've been doing that for millennia.
Yeah,
And
for
they don't eat, for millennia, and they haven't just been eating supermarket chain, where's it been ham?
where's
They've been, where's it been ham?
uh,
They've been, they use the bones to make stews and soups. They drink the bloods to get their vitamin C. They boil fats in order to get fat deposits and other nutrients that are stored in fat, like certain vitamins. And even if you did that, going from a very carbohydrate rich diet into one which had almost no carbohydrates in it at all is not going to do you any world of good. And that's just on that diet alone. There are so many diets that are either useless, just detrimental to your mental health because of how bad they or are actually going to cause you physical harm. There are so many that it's impossible to even count.
yeah, I mean, it's hard to explain these finer details to people because people who like argue so strongly for these things,
Yeah,
99.9% of the time, they do not know the finer details at all.
a lot of them take these diets as almost as if it's a part of themselves, and if you insult their diet methodology, you're insulting their weight loss plan, which usually is what it's for. It's a weight loss plan.
Yep.
And the worst ones I've seen, apart from vegans, that well, not vegans aren't bad. Most vegans are absolutely fine, but people who absolutely preach veganism not as a moral stance, because I can completely understand them for that, but as a health stance. But also people who preach fasting, intermittent fasting, as if it's God's gift to nutrition and health.
Oh
If they
yeah.
eat anything, if they eat something 15 hours instead of 16 hours before, then they're going to lose their entire metabolic window, and they're going to put it all the way back on. It's all going to be for nothing. I'm not even exaggerating here. I know people like this. Some of them from the server.
I don't know, but I mean that's what we're here for, to
Exactly.
hopefully curb the amount of people who are like this.
I mean, when I'm not busy, I do everything I can to explain it, as I'm sure you've seen me do time after time.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate it every single time.
I want to get back onto it, Mayor. Just a case of once my final exams are done, once I get that out the way. But it's some people can be a bit malicious about it, where they say, "Oh, I've done my research. I know exactly what it is." But I'd say a good chunk of them are just misinformed. They heard about it off some influencer, want to give it a try, and they're genuinely asking, "How do I go about this?" And then they're told, "You don't."
Speaking about doing quote unquote doing their research, a lot of the time, well, like you said, the research is fumbled because there's a bunch of stuff out there, and a lot of them might actually just be complete BS. But also,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't actually have the background to properly analyze the research and understand it, that's going to cause a whole lot of other problems. There's actually,
Oh,
and I'm going to refer to TikTok here. I know a lot of the information there is bad, but there are some information there that is good. There was a doctor there on TikTok who was talking about doing research online between, well, maybe it was about why bother continuing your studies when you can learn everything on the internet nowadays, which is correct. Nowadays, a bunch of sources are on the internet. You can totally learn very high level stuff for free. But even if you have the ability to access something from like Nature, an article or like some research paper from Nature that's super well detailed, blah blah blah, and everything, if you don't have the background to actually know what everything on there means, it's not gonna mean anything to you. Like if you take
I
oh yeah, continue.
sorry. I know exactly what he means. I have done research. I mean, it's still to be published, but I have done some research, and I mean, my girlfriend's probably a lot better suited for this because she's in the process of getting published and she's doing a master's that's quite research heavy. But anyway, a lot of these papers, especially on PubMed, which is and Medline, which is our medical databases for papers, are very, very specific. And even with a medical background, you will read through all these papers and still needs to open up another 10 papers just to understand what they're talking about.
Yep.
And not all papers are made equal, and I don't think a lot of people understand that just because the paper has been published or even peer-reviewed does not mean that what it's saying is useful for you, or that you're extrapolating the data properly, or that it's even relevant to what you thought you clicked on it for. And it's not even lay people that get it wrong. I've gone on papers so many times that I thought we're talking about one subject, but we're actually discussing something completely different, and I didn't realize until halfway reading through the methodology.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah, it's a lot of you can. I feel like a good way to filter whether or not people actually have properly done their research is asking them what was the methodology, because a lot of people will not completely understand methodology. Like to
oh
give an
no,
example. Oh yeah.
no! The best one, not the methodology. How did they conduct the statistical analysis?
Oh
Was
yeah.
it t-test or chi-squared?
Yeah. Even I get tipped up on that because like I hate statistics. Not because it's not because I don't understand it. I understand it, but this I can't bother to memorize like different analysis types and everything. So
I mean, I know a lot of people that will just look at a p number and take it as gospel. But I'm lucky to get here. I have a girlfriend, a partner here who studies data science, who's taught statistical analysis assisted at university level. So I can always just cheat by showing her the paper going, is this significant? But not everyone has that resource. And even with my knowledge of chi-squared and t-test and statistical modeling, especially for medical papers, it it's difficult. It is undoubtedly hard to look at a paper and say, yes, I understand everything that goes on here. And
Mm-hmm.
almost everyone looks at it with an element of trust or faith that, yes, this paper, I understand what its methodology and what its results are, but not how it came to it. But because of how it's presented itself, I will believe that it's so.
Oh man, there's so many things to talk about when it comes to doing self research. Like, oh yeah, this was actually an example I was gonna give earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine this: you're the average layman person who just got into fitness and is looking up like diet trends or something, and you look up these papers
Mm-hmm.
that support whatever diet. Here's the thing: try and go to some other paper on PubMed. Look at, let's say, the paper is about protein modules, and there's a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of numbers and letters mixed together. Yeah, if you don't understand that, then I can tell you 100% that you will not properly understand any paper regarding diet at all. Because even if they don't mention any of that in that paper, having knowledge about like the Krebs cycle, for example, like having fully understanding the Krebs cycle can help you understand the thoughts or idea or the process behind that paper regarding diet. Say, because there's a bunch of diets like those papers regarding insulin and obesity and everything, and people always
Mm-hmm.
take these papers as like, oh, insulin is the sole cause of obesity, or cholesterol is the sole cause of atherosclerosis or whatever, and they have absolutely no clue that cholesterol is actually something the body synthesizes on its own, or that insulin is actually pretty important, and that uh, it can be completely genetic. It's hugely genetics, and that obviously you can influence stuff like that, and that it, picture fits biggest phrase. It depends. Aside from get your protein, it depends is a very, very accurate in the physiological world, because most of the time it really does depend.
Aye, it does. It's just scientific literacy is not something that's routinely taught, even at university level. I mean, I was lucky that I was in a degree that taught us how to read papers, but unless you're doing one that requires you to do it, you're not going to get around it. And the average layperson, the first place they're going to go is Google. And the first results that come up on Google are just the ones that people tend to click on the most, which are the ones that offer the best results for the least effort.
Yeah.
So if you Google benefits of intermittent fasting, you'll find so many things talking about how it's going to regulate your blood sugar, how it's going to drop off pounds, how it's going to help you release protein that you didn't even know you had. If you Google cons, you'll find out that it's going to ruin your post recovery because you're not eating enough protein right after your workout or enough carbs. Yeah, so it's just so many mixes that ruin it all. If only they taught scientific literacy in a more comprehensive fashion.
Do you think there's any way that we can simplify it for the layman to, or at least get it get it in a way where they can understand that, okay, I read this paper, I think I understand it, but I probably don't fully understand it, and I should likely be critical that, as this paper shows a lot of positives from something that I think I want to do, there's probably my own personal bias in thinking that, oh, this paper fully supports my belief on whatever diet or training methodology or whatever. And I should also take a look at the other side of the quote unquote argument, because most of the time you realize that the truth is always somewhere in the middle, almost every single time.
Aye. Well, you see it in some places like Healthline and other sites that when they go through the article, they will link most of their statements to a study, which is, I guess, a good start. But how many readers are actually going to go check the studies? And how are they going to know that those studies are being used in context? Those studies had adequate sample size, adequate methodology, adequate statistical analysis or just a half decent hypothesis that relates to what the statement was on. That is just not adequate. I mean, there's a difference between giving the public the information and giving them a way to consume it. You can give them all the information you want. Anyone, anywhere in the world can go online and find all of the information. Doesn't mean they'll understand or comprehend it. Definitely doesn't mean that they'll be able to take it, read it, analyze it, and formulate a theory or formulate a conclusion from it to say, okay, from what I've read, this is the best course. And I just, it's a hard thing to do. I mean, I guess you could make sure that reputable sites are the ones that are at the top of each Google search, are the ones that are heavily encouraged, have the most publicity. But that only pushes the problem back a step to say, okay, now how do we make sure these sites are actually giving the right information?
Mm-hmm.
Because you could always have it say, oh no, doctor approved or peer-reviewed study approved. But the amount of work that would require for every single web space and every article that someone could potentially stumble upon, it's just not feasible.
Nope.
And it's a hard question to answer, and I don't think I can. I think people will be asking that not just for fitness, but for misinformation as a whole across the internet, especially in this modern age.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just so easy to latch on to something that seems positive to their own personal bias and then latch onto it really tightly. Which is why I wholeheartedly appreciate people like, I don't know if you know this, Alex Bomley or Alexander Bomley. He's a strongman on YouTube. And
Nope, never heard of him.
I have shared his videos on the server before, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing you, you're probably too busy to like that you missed them. But he did a very good video in regards to that time when the trendy question was how much volume to, or like the optimal volume for gains. And at the
Mm-hmm.
time, a bunch of science-based YouTubers, including Nipit, also was like mentioning papers on like 8 to 20 sets per volume per weekly or whatever. And he mentioned that Athlete X also made a video on it, but he liked Jeff Cavalier's approach to it a lot better than the science-based YouTubers, as and he explains it in a way that is very easy to understand and accept. Basically, for example, when we're looking at research in regards to anything to find answers, we have to understand that science and research is just a guideline. It's a compass showing the likely direction that we should go to. And that's why questions like what is the optimal volume for gains is a very dumb question, because
Mm-hmm. Aye.
it needs a ton of context. Like, and he makes the context like such as this, an example: volume that a bodybuilder would do on the regular or even on their off season could be volume that would completely cripple a powerlifter. Cardio
Mm-hmm.
that would cripple a bodybuilder or even a CrossFit athlete that a strongman does on the regular, it's to them it's normal. Like, and to an average person, this could be the perfect volume where they could start to see improvements, where they can break homeostasis and actually improve in whatever goal they're aiming for, and vice versa as well. Intensity that powerlifters regularly train at would be way too much for for bodybuilders who aren't adapted to that particular training methodology. So all in all,
Aye, exactly.
yeah, exactly. So like all in all, you have to take into context like questions like this and even research papers that you're looking at. Say for example, you're looking to a culture like Japan or Korea, South Korea. Why are the people there so skinny? Or like like generally the perception of them is that they're skinny and healthy, and then you can't just look at that and you can't just think of that question and then give a simple answer like, oh, they walk a lot, or like, oh, they don't eat a lot of meat, they eat fish a lot, or uh they bicycle a lot. Or like, you can't just give simple answers to that. Like, it helps, sure, that
Mm-hmm.
they do all this activity, but It's never one answer.
Aye, it's because papers, especially when a paper makes it big on YouTube and everyone decides to start looking at it,
Yeah.
they don't say more volume is better. It's usually something like, oh, I don't know. They gave 14 athletes with 6 to 12 months experience a program encompassing either 3 sets or 6 sets per workout on this muscle group, and they observed how much work they could perform after the last training week. And they would say that the majority could do this on this end and the majority could do this on that end. That's not saying more volume is better, it's saying these 7 people, because usually the sample sizes for these fitness papers are ridiculously small.
Yeah, most of the time.
These 7 people performed 13% better than, just plucking the numbers out of my head, than these other people on twice as much volume over this amount of time without regulating other factors such as their sleep, their recovery, their work life, their home life, their diet. Because most of these papers can't regulate that because those confounding factors, they can't afford to house and feed and control these people throughout their whole life, just for weeks on end, just for the sake of a small hypothesis like this. So those factors are completely omitted in most papers.
Exactly.
So how can you ever expect for one, not even one paper, but systematic analyses of all of these papers to give you a coherent picture of exactly what you, not the general public, but you must do to optimize every amount of your workouts? Why would you go through all of that when it's so much more time convenient and also probably more fun for you to just play about with your program and see what works once you've got a solid foundation going?
Yeah, exactly. Like the things that you were saying were the exact thing that he was saying in the video. Except he added one more thing. So when it comes to these research
Mm-hmm.
papers, especially when it comes to papers studying training volume or training methodologies, blah blah blah, there's a set time limit, and including all the stuff that you said, like nutrition, sleep, and stress levels, and everything that they can't take in account for due to just impracticality. The other bigger factor that they definitely cannot take into account is duration. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
there's a study that uh, takes a bunch of athletes the exact same. Maybe they've been training for like 2 years or something, and they have decent strength levels and blah blah blah. So they take them on a training program for 12 weeks, and then boom, they have the results for those 12 weeks. Well, here's the thing: people adapt, and the volume and intensities that worked really well for them in those 12 weeks might not work for them again in the next 24 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big factor that people miss out when they just take a look at this paper. Because if you're on this really sick, or if these people were on a really quote unquote sick program for like 8, 12 weeks, well, have them rerun that same program for the next 12 weeks. Would it still yield the same result? Or what about the next 12 weeks after that? Obviously, the answer would
Unfortunately,
be no, because you adapt. And once you've adapt and homeostasis find and that is
mm-hmm.
your norm, your homeostasis, you're gonna have to do something completely different. So this idea that there's an ideal optimized volume range or intensity range or rep range exercise is completely arbitrary.
Unfortunately, there just isn't going to be this mega 10,000 or 20,000 person study over a 2 to 3 year course at regular intervals, which encompasses diet, foods, and stress levels, because it's not in the public's interest.
Yep.
And the logistics behind that alone would be impossible. As useful as it would be for people on the server, even though the advice would probably still be to use the resources that you can find on Reddit most of the time, it'll work well enough.
Ironically so, yeah.
I know, who would have thought Reddit's the centre for fitness across the globe?
At the very least, Reddit gives a more layman's realistic approach and a more understandable, digestible approach to fitness. Because
Mm-hmm.
like just looking at research papers, you're not really actually going to understand much compared to, well, like actual experience. But the experience and the methodology should be guided by the data, is what we're saying. Have Like I
Oh,
said earlier, the data, the science is a compass. It shows you the general direction that you should probably go into, but it's not gonna be a direct roadmap of every single left turn, right turn that you should be taking on that journey.
exactly.
Now, actually, this idea just popped up recently, but so far we haven't had so many of these questions anymore. But
Hmm.
when you use the word arbitrary, or maybe I was the one who used that word, I actually remember a topic that was fairly popular and honestly still is from time to time: body
Hmm.
fat.
Oh no. No, 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 no,
Yes, yes,
no.
yes.
If you look fat, you are fat. Okay, that's it done.
uh, well, in a way, yes. If you look fat, you are fat. But also, a lot of times, you just need to build muscle.
The obsession about, I know, the obsession of, oh, I don't look at that picture, or I do, so I must be exactly 11% body fat, but I need to be doing it 8 to look like that. Yeah, sure you do, pal. Because, that percentage is definitely the factor on there, and not about just putting on a bit more muscle or losing a bit of fat. It's that definite, exact scientific number.
Uh, you know what? Actually, I want to go deeper into this. So, Connor,
Hmm.
can you actually tell us how body fat is actually accounted for and why it even is a thing in the medical world?
The thing is, it's not really a thing used in the medical world so much nowadays. We just tend to use our own judgment with BMI as a reference frame. Like, if we get a patient with, say, a BMI of 40, we look at them and go, okay, that person is morbidly obese. They're going to be at higher risk of, I don't know, anesthesia complications or cardiovascular disease or whatever. The body fat came in, I can't give you an exact history, but it's used in some areas to determine very specific things, such as in some metabolics, or maybe in people who are severely bulimic or anorexic, just to determine how much fat they have left, maybe in the elderly, to determine their frailty, or to help in addition to their frailty. But it's not an often used number because in those areas, there's so much more that's clinically important to a person's well being than a body fat percentage. It just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have that much of an input. And knowing it doesn't have much of an input either because you can kind of eyeball where they are on the scale regardless of what the exact number is. You would know whether you need to gain or lose some weight. So having that exact number, if it's in a mid range, it doesn't really matter. And if it's on the lower or the high end, you don't need to calculate it because you already know whether it's on the lower or the high end.
Yeah. Oh, ironically, this is actually one of the fields of fitness where it is better to oversimplify because, like you said earlier, just look at yourself. If you look fat, you probably are fat. But at the same time, most of the time, is you probably really just need to build muscle. Or you know what? Let's put it this way: if you look in the mirror and you look fat and you do not look jacked, then you need to build muscle.
Mm-hmm.
As simple as that. Your main concern is just building more muscle.
Pretty much, aye. If you look in the mirror and you actually properly look like you are fat, you're not just a bit chubby, you're not just holding a few extra pounds of weight, you are fat, then you are fat. If you're a bit chubby, then you're a bit chubby. You probably just, like you said, need to put on a bit of muscle, maybe cut back a bit. It also isn't rocket science. If you're a bit fat, you need more muscle and less fat. If not, grand.
Very grand. And see what Connor, I need you to say this, like repeat after me. Body fat percentage is useless.
Body fat percentage is useless.
Hell yeah. Finally.
There we go.
Yeah, I cannot wait for this whole body fat percentage obsession to completely die out one day. It is so pointless. And people harp on how, oh, you DEXA scan is so accurate. Like, mate, it's still a plus minus 5% on a DEXA scan. And DEXA scans aren't
Also,
even used for body fat percentage. They're used for, I believe,
osteoporosis.
osteoporosis. Yeah, they're not even used to detect body fat percentage.
I use it to calculate a standard deviation for bone density. We don't on how likely you are to fracture. That's what its clinical purpose is for. We don't do it to tell you whether you're in the athletic or the elite percentage of body fat according to Athlenex.
Oh yeah, there is that one that he made. But man, or like to further support it, don't just take our word for it. We have two and soon enough three actual bodybuilders who compete on stage in the server who I've asked personally about what their takes on body fat percentage, and all of them have said the same thing. It's so stupid and pointless. Because think about it, people, the judges on stage in the bodybuilding show have exactly no clue what your body fat percentage is, and they could not care less. If you
Mm-hmm.
look,
Aye.
yeah, if you look jacked and you're shredded to the bones, you're shredded. Like, why do you need a number to tell you that? Or why do you need a number to be a goal? Your goal, if you want to look a certain way, then sure, go for it. But that number isn't going to be the determinant of that goal. If you find yourself one day with like 15, 20 pounds of muscle and six pack abs with obliques, then congrats. You're very big and you're probably very big and lean. What is your body fat percentage? I could not care less. You don't need a
If
number to
you
tell you
walked
how you
up,
look.
if you were that jacked and you walked up to a person on the street, they're not going to go, "Oh wow, man, what's your body fat percentage?" And if you did, the only appropriate response would be, "What the hell are you talking about, you absolute weirdo?"
Or
Because that.
or or
Mm-hmm.
conversely, you could someone who's very jacked and lean could go to a person and say, "Bro, I'm like 18% body fat, man," and they could go, "Wow, that's like so lean." Like, it doesn't matter. No one knows what the number is, and no one cares anyways. Like 80% out of 100%. I mean, that's pretty lean, isn't it? 80% out of 100%. Sure, I guess that's
Yeah.
lean.
I know, perhaps you're thinking forms of beef. Oh, that beef says 10%. Ooh, 5%? Oh, you're not 5%? Then you're not like my packet of Asda beef right here.
uh,
Oh,
but, there's so many things that hopefully one day they'll die out permanently. We can only hope.
we can certainly hope, aye.
Yeah, we can hope, and we can put in some more effort in the server. And if this episode is something that you found really educational and hopefully entertaining, please do share it around with not only people in the server but with your friends and family as well.
Mm-hmm. Aye, definitely. Assuming they can understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, assuming they can pick up on what you're saying. If you have any Irish friends, wait, no, sorry,
Scottish! Come
Scottish.
on now, you know this.
Yeah, I forgot. But you have to forgive me. It's like 1:30 a.m. on my side of the world.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So, we've actually near the end of our episode now. I believe this is a pretty good spot to end it here. Obviously, one day in the future we'll have you on again because there's still so much to talk about.
Oh, I definitely barely scratched the surface here.
Yeah, we're only scratching the surface, and this isn't even having Connor going referencing his medical books yet. Once that gets
Nope,
open,
they're all sitting behind me. Let me just count 1, 2,
oh,
9. I have 23 medical books sitting beside me right now, all of them shut. I know. Fun times ahead for me.
fun times ahead for you, and fun times ahead in future episodes once you actually get to open up those books to talk about on future episodes. Yeah.
Indeed it will be. Indeed it will.
Yeah, so I believe we're gonna have to end it here. It was a ton of fun having you on the episode, Connor.
It was a ton of fun to be here. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, especially with how unplanned and how spontaneous this was. Hopefully
I
in
know.
future episodes we can actually have cams on, eh?
I know it could actually be possible.
Instead of having some
And
weird Discord pictures on the video.
I was into the rescue to get a new cam.
Yeah. I'll just get like a new PC in general. It should be decent
Aye,
enough.
on a student's budget, I'm sure that'll be fine.
Yeah, sometime in the future. Hopefully.
Well,
But
now
yeah.
you can actually go get some sleep.
Oh yeah, that too. Uh let's end this with the usual, obviously. Picture fits trademark phrases. Which one do you want?
Indeed. Oh, tempting. But I have to go with the most iconic one here as the guest.
Go ahead.
All right. And in my full accent, as you have to have it, make sure you get your protein.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's I actually like it when you said with that accent. And obviously with the second one being it depends. Now, once again, thanks to Picturefit for creating the Discord server and for giving us this opportunity to even make these episodes in the first place. Thank you, Connor,
Indeed,
for
aye.
thank you, Connor, for being a guest on this episode. And we'll have his stuff in the description, I believe, if you're okay with that, like socials or anything. But I don't think that you're a very social person on the internet.
No, I'm not too social online at all, but I'll happily give you some stuff to shove down there.
Oh, sure. We can do that much later. We've got time. We've
Aye.
definitely got time. Obviously, check out Picturefit on the links below. You can check me out on the links below. And again, if you found this episode really nice, please do share it around. Post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, Facebook if you still use that. What else do people use nowadays? TikTok, Snapchat maybe.
I don't know if Snapchat died out.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's all it for today, tonight, or morning, wherever you are. Bye bye.
Bye.